Good evening and welcome to a new edition of To The Point. This evening with a distinguished panel, we'll be discussing critical issues. Healthcare. This continent might be rich in a lot of resources, rich in human resources, but there are lots of question marks and lots of concerns about healthcare within the African continent. On that note, and in its continued role as a leading country in this continent, Egypt launches the first African Health Conference. This conference is actually held under the auspices of the President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, and it's an initiative by one of the leading universities here in Egypt, Tanta University. With a distinguished panel, we'll be discussing healthcare. How did this idea materialize and how will it contribute to health reform, not only in Egypt, but within this continent? With us this evening to discuss this issue is Dr. Magdi Abdel-Raouf Saba, who is the president of Tanta University, and he is also the president of the first African Health Conference. A pleasure to have you with us tonight.
Thank you very much.
With us also this evening is Dr. Mahmoud Shaklu, who is the vice president of the Health Conference, and he is also a professor of dentistry. A pleasure to have you with us. Gentlemen, before we go into our discussion, in one of the leading developments this evening in the European continent, the British Parliament decided or voted against Theresa May's Brexit. How does this reflect will be under discussion. With us on the phone is Dr. Sherif Amir, professor of geopolitics at Paris University. Dr. Sherif, can you hear us?
Yeah, I hear very well. Hello.
Good evening, sir. Well, it's quite... I don't know, is it a surprise that the British Parliament rejected Theresa May's Brexit deal or not? But the question that raises itself right now, what is the future of Britain vis-a-vis the Brexit issue? And maybe, or to the point, the future of, or the political future of the British Premier's politics?
Okay. Exactly. Just as you said now, the main problem now is Theresa May's government. Just a few minutes ago, Jeremy Corbyn, the Tory, or the opposition leader of the Tory government, which is the shadow government, decided to table a non-confidence vote against Theresa May's government.
Yes.
And this will take place if she loses the non-confidence vote, she has 14 days to prepare herself for another vote, and then the second vote, if she loses it again, then he will be the prime minister. They will have general election. No one knows if he will be Jeremy Corbyn or not, but there will be general elections. Yes. And this will be a total chaos in the political scene of Britain. She said today in her statement defending the Brexit plan, she said that if we have no deal inside our parliament, this would jeopardize our own union, which is the union of Britain itself. And Jeremy Corbyn said that she had 2 years to defend her plans, and now the time came and she failed. So he said, I don't believe that in 14 days she will have something to say more than she has done 2 years ago. And now Britain has to decide in the time of the clock is ticking, 73 days, meaning March 29th. It will be the deadline for Britain to leave the EU. So what are we seeing now is a total surprise for all the political parties now. The defeat was 432 votes against 230. So it's a large number. Jeremy Corbyn is not also a favored person for the Labour Party, which he represents. There are so many problems about his leadership. So the two leaders are now in total chaos within their own parties and with the European Union itself. I think that now it's about time that Theresa May makes new suggestions to save not only her cabinet, but to save Britain from a total clash with the EU.
Yes. Dr. Sharif Amir, thank you very much for your contribution. Dr. Magdi, how did the idea come about? I mean, we heard of a lot of conferences and summits, but this is the first time that we hear that Egypt is taking an initiative to set up some kind of a platform for health reform within the whole continent.
Actually, we started this idea in last April in 2018, and at the end of every year, we make a very big conference in each college to pronounce the new project, to announce the researches, how come it pick up new ideas for practicing in the health domain, regarding to what's new in drugs, what's new in dentology, what's new in pharmacy. And we thought this year we have to make something new. This new items is to gather every items in medicine together: nursing, pharmacy, dentology, physicians, to pick up all the idea from all these colleges in my university. Then we thought, what's up if we are not making it wider?
Okay.
To make an Egypt, we predicted that Egypt is going to be the leader of the African Union. So we thought that's a very good step to make the rule better. That's why we put the framework for all these conferences together, and that's why we come to make it in Cairo. Not in Tanta, because Cairo have a lot of hotels and it's capital of Egypt, and Egypt will be the leader. That's why we choose Cairo for being held this conference. And we promote this conference since May. Okay. We send all the letters for the universities in Africa to make exchange between the ideas in the field. Actually, we have a lot of effort and a lot of activities in Africa before. But Africa is just like visiting professor, doing some training and some associations. But the idea to make all this coming together, actually to make a plan. What is the diseases in this field? They are better than us, to exchange the ideas, the medicine. And we choose the main 5 diseases
that affect this continent.
That affect
which are
the continent.
What are the critical?
Oncology is the first. Okay. Cancers.
The whole world.
Yes, but the map of cancer different from country to country.
Okay.
Because the darker the skin, the more protecting from skin cancer, and vice versa. Colonic carcinoma is much there. That's why, but we are giving them much more ideas, because Cairo, Egypt, we have a very good in medicine. We have a long history, we have a long expertise, we have a long scholars, we have a long teams which work all over the world. And if you visit any big university worldwide, you will find 1, 2 professors practicing there from Egypt. That's why Egypt, we have a long history of medical schools in Egypt. We offer them our experience, and we're going to exchange experience with each other. But much more better, our drugs in Egypt, the pharmaceutical drugs, is very, 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 very good, effective. And they are not known in Africa. That's why we gather all these items to be in one big conference, to exchange these ideas together with our lovely continent, Africa.
Can you elaborate more on the participants? Is it the level of participation in such a conference? Will it be the ministers of health? Who will be participating, and from how many countries in this continent?
Well, as Mr. President has already said, that we started mailing most of all, even all the universities and also the ministers of health all over the continent. We started to have some confirmation, some of them, and we're still receiving more. So as we said, as you said in the beginning, it's an initiative that started from Tanta, and we're working on the level of nationwide based on the projects of strategic plans of Egypt and the whole African continent for the year 2063. So we did not thought about having it localized in Tanta or even in Egypt only. We thought about to go with the direction of the cabinet of the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi. So we have incorporated all the national health care providers in Egypt, all universities, Ministry of Health, even research centers, military medical academy, military medical services, and even the drugs industries and exports. So we gathered the whole country working together, and that's directed in cooperation with all of the African countries. So I might expect it's very large. I might call it's mega one, because it's covering 6 levels, everything about the healthcare, nursing, vet, dental, medicine, and continuous medical education. So we are discussing actually what we call now worldwide all one health, because you might find diseases is transmitted from animals to human and vice versa and so on. And even the environment that has also impact on the human beings. So
which is why you have the veterinary medicine as
Yes,
well,
we have
because
the
I
sector.
noticed this is also mixed with the agenda.
It is, some diseases are affecting both of them.
The idea that this is the first health conference, what are you aspiring to achieve? Are we going to see a replication? Are you hoping that Egypt will be the launching pad and that this initiative will continue at least once a year in other parts of the continent? Is this going to be on the agenda, let's put it that way? We did it this 2019 in Egypt, 2020, where will it be?
Thank you very much for this question. Actually, our plan is not to have a conference, that's it.
Okay.
We make a big agenda for 2019, not in a medical health, but covering 5 conferences, covering agriculture, economy, counseling, law counseling, sports, and health sector.
So it's not just a health.
No.
This one is the health.
We have a big agenda for 2019.
That's Tanta University.
Yes,
Okay.
and the Higher Council of Higher Education, we give them all the agenda, and you go to the Parliament and you discuss the agenda there. So it's covering many fields because it is a university. University care about education and the researches and environmental factors. When we started this health summit, we care about not to be ended by one. We would like to announce by the end of this one, that's what we call the African Health Organization for Research and Health. This is an association or organization or whatever we're gonna make it the names, because we are inviting all the continent to share by members, and then we make this association to make this summit repeated yearly, maybe in Cairo, maybe in another capital.
Okay.
But the one which is initiating this idea is Egypt.
Yes.
That's why we are going to make the head office will be in Egypt.
So you will have like a head office.
Okay, what we are looking for our continent, 2063.
2063.
What's meant by 2063? What's our view for the continent to be in 2063? Not a third world country. We are building the continent. And Egypt is the leader for building this country. And we are putting the few steps in this road. When we visited a lot of countries in Africa, they are very good in some items, but Egypt is still Egypt. How could this be reached there? We have to give them a new ideas, a new plans. That's our goal. Our goal is to make this conference continue, and this association makes plans, exchange the researches, exchange the ideas to make a frame plan for the diseases, researchers, visitors. Since a couple of weeks, we have a visitor from Nigeria. They are making a new medical college. They asked Tanta University to be caring about how to make them going in 5-2 system, which is applied in Egypt nowadays. This is a new methodology. They are taking the old one.
Yes.
But how to make it real? It is our goal. That's why, and also Mauritania asked us to be built a new university there with the name of Tanta University. We have a lot of protocol in Africa, and this is not Tanta only, Cairo University, Alexandria, Helwan, Mansoura. Why you are not gathering all this idea to make the effect of Egypt on the continent is according to plan, not to concentrate on one country versus others are not affected. We have to take care of all of them. That's why we are looking for Egypt in the leaderhood period to be as they wish, and they are looking for our country.
With us on the phone actually is Dr. Ines Abdel Halim, member of the... Okay, we apologize, the phone was cut, we'll try to reconnect again. The participation of youth, since this is an initiative by a university, then I would assume that we will have a lot of youth participating in this conference, since if we look at the demographics of Africa, over 50% of the population happen to be from the youth category. And if we're talking about health reform, we have to start with awareness for those young generations. Will we see a lot of participation by...
Yes, we know Africa as a continent, they had the highest rate of based on age. Worldwide is about 39, the average. In Africa, it's 19.
Okay.
So this is the average age in Africa. If you go through the calendar of the agenda of the conference, you'll find lots of junior researchers and junior speakers, and even also attendee, because those we think, me and Professor Dr. Magdi, we think as the President always think also, that the youth is the future of this country and the whole continent and the whole world. So we're putting all the focus in our plans in pushing those young people to get up to their limit in everywhere, to be educated, well educated, to look for the prosperity of the future, and to have a hope, to bring peace, to work, and to have a job to do, and to have a promising future. So we have a lots of youth, more than even the other people in the conference. And as a participant or as attendee, even the organizers, they're all young people. We are taking all these young people in our work, in our campaign.
With us on the phone is Dr. Islam Abul Majd, Deputy Health Minister for African Issues. Dr. Islam, can you hear us?
Yes.
Dr. Islam, Egypt will be launching, or actually Egypt, under the auspices or under the care of Tanta University, will be launching the first African Health Conference. How does this reflect on Egypt's role in this continent from a health perspective? Dr. Islam? Dr. Islam, can you hear us?
Yeah, good evening to you and your guests.
Yes, did you? Go ahead.
Yeah, do you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, good evening to you and your guests.
Good evening, sir.
First of all, I would like to congratulate Egypt and congratulate ourselves for being the chair of the African Union Commission for 2019.
Yes.
And I congratulate Dr. Magdi for his initiative to make the first health conference in Africa. This is one of the good challenges for Africa is the health, and how much Egypt is advanced in this sector, and how much you can engage our brothers and sisters from African nations, all over the 55 member states.
Yes.
I think this will is a part of a row, it's the first row of a map of conference for the 2019. His Excellency the Minister of Higher Education, Scientific Research, Dr. Khaled Abdel asked to make a plan for the full 2019 full conferences. Each month is a conference dedicated to Africa. The first one is the health by Tanta University, and I think there is another one for counseling. He mentioned about it, Dr. Magdi. And there is another one for blue economy, for mineral resources, for education, and even Al-Azhar University will host the African Association for Universities for Northern Africa in March. So I believe Egypt is going back to Africa to make a leadership. Leadership with implementation plan. It's not just conferences and gathering of scientists. But as Dr. Magdi said, it's a plan after the conference. What can we do for African nations in health? What can we do in African nations in space? What can we do for African nations in blue economy? So I think this kind of a plan, how can we arrange ourselves to strengthen our relation with Africa? Last October in 2018, we arranged a very, very successful workshop in pharmaceutical and the experience of Egypt in hepatitis C and how much Egypt could advance African nations in this sector. This was arranged with the African Union Commission, with the Research and Development Program, and it was a very, very successful. This is the idea, how to make on ground and the hand in hand to support Africa. I think this is a political trend. His Excellency, the President, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, gave his instructions to all sectors. How can we work together and engage our African nations together for the help to citizens of Africa? I believe we are doing well. I congratulate Dr. Magdi. We do the support to Dr. Magdi for his conferences and the other conferences, and I believe this support comes from the auspices of His Excellency the President to your conference. I think this is the idea how to make Egypt again lead Africa by doing actual activities to African nations.
Yes. Dr. Islam, thank you very much for your fruitful input. Dr. Magdi, health reform is very expensive.
Yes.
The conference is good. You initiate ideas, you initiate means of collaboration, but how can we also engage? I know maybe I'm expanding things here, but how can we engage the private sector to cooperate, at least in spreading awareness? Because most of the diseases that our continent is suffering from, unfortunately, also happen because of the lack of awareness of proper health and hygiene measures, like HIV and AIDS, for example, which is quite a catastrophe in this continent, even in this day and age. The private sector, can Tanta University put somehow, squeeze in, how can we get the private sector to cooperate as well?
We started.
Actually,
I already to make this conference, as I said to you, is not, although it is our initiatives, but we maintain every aspect in it to show Africa how Egypt is. Why we deserve to be leaders. We have a long history, we have a long expertise, we are giving. And this one, we make a very good exhibit for us. This exhibit, 99% of the participant is the private sector.
That's very good.
Drug companies, drug utilities, medical utilities, which we have, and we showed us sponsoring for supportive in Africa. a lot of companies, but because I'm not allowed
Not
to
to,
say names,
mention
yes,
names,
I know
please.
this very well, are making sponsoring for,
Egyptian companies?
yes,
Okay.
yes. They have a, for sure, they have a benefit for this to make marketing for their drug in
Exactly.
in the
It's
other one.
it's a win-win
But
situation.
so far up till now, they are giving a lot. No, they are very generous with us. And they are sponsoring this conference based on to tell Africa that we have. And this private sector is making a lot of donations for Africa. Basically, this is an educational summit. The most generous one is not to give money, it's to give ideas, informations, thoughts, protections.
You're expecting this to materialize in that conference?
Yes, this is our main issues.
Okay.
How to make, that's why I'm telling you that is, for example, thalassemia disease. There is no mapping for thalassemia in North Africa, which is widely distributed. The Mediterranean Sea countries, from Morocco to Egypt.
Yes.
And we found it is in Sudan, and it is in Chad, and it is in Algeria. So why we didn't make perspective? In my university, we have a very good research center for thalassemia diseases. That's why we're offering them our ideas, our protocols, our experience in this field. That's why we are giving them what is not buying by money. And the private sector is a very big sharer for this, all this aspect. Thanks for the Egyptian Private Center, which is sponsoring the conference and sponsoring the donation for Africa.
The field of dentistry.
Yeah.
How advanced is Egypt, and how can Egypt lead this continent? Are we considered one of the advanced countries in the field of dentistry in the African continent?
Very advanced.
Okay, this is a biased opinion, or
No, actually, no, I was...
We are.
We are, actually. We have lots of pioneers, professors from Egypt. They show up in international exhibitions and international conferences, and they are unique. I myself, I was in Germany at the University of Cologne. I got my doctorate degree there, and I was assigned there. And I'm Egyptian. My basic education was at Atlanta University. I have a lot of my colleagues. They are working in Canada, professors in Canada, in the United States, and Western Australia, and South Africa. They are quite widespread in the world. We are leaders. We are leaders ever since the dawn, ever since the first time.
May I add something?
Go
please?
ahead.
One of his students, we are not biased, but one of his students is Amr Abu Zaid. I thanks him very much. For 2 consecutive years, he's a recent graduate from Tanta University. 3 years ago, he makes workshop in the American Congress of Dentology in San Francisco and Chicago by the name of Tanta University. Imagine a student, a fellow of Dr. Mahmoud. He's now doing a workshop for a new research of his research for 2 consecutive years in the state. We are good. We are good. Egypt is good.
So
we are pioneers.
This is what we mean, as Professor Maggie said. We are very good, but we need a system. We need kind of...
I was just going to ask,
Yeah.
why is it that even though we're very, very good,
Yeah.
indeed,
Yes.
one of the top scientists in different fields, be it in medicine or even in engineering, there is always an Egyptian somehow there.
Yes,
Yet,
definitely.
I will
You
have
have
to
it
be to
all
the
over
point
the
and ask a
world.
question.
All over the
Why
world you
is
have
it
it.
that something is lacking? Is it a system?
Yes,
Is
it
it the
is.
curriculum?
Now it is a system. It is to have a vision for a future prospect for your country. When you have a vision, then you start to plan, and then you build your road. If you don't have a vision, then your effort is scattered, not targeted, then everything, your dream will be managed. So you need to have a strategic plan for your vision. You go for it, and then you would do it.
Yes.
And therefore, Professor Magdi has the initiative from Toronto University for this conference. We had a vision for something just like there. And we set up the plan for this. As we said, that the African Health Organization for Research and Healthcare and so on, it's a matter of organizing and gathering the Egyptian soft diplomat together to give an assistance in bridging information and knowledge, sharing knowledge between us and the other African countries. Then we can share our, we can control our own destiny. And strengths, we can get it from unity. So you just need an organized system and a plan and a vision and a plan, and you go for it. Then you will have the
What
target.
will we be missing to be pioneers? And I mean pioneers that whenever we look at organization, whatever's rating of universities, for example, that we will see Tanta University, Cairo University, whatever, one of the top. And I'm asking this for a very, very simple question, that unfortunately nowadays there is this brain drain, so to speak, where we see a lot of our young generation, they finish school and they leave. They travel to get education abroad.
It's true.
When will we reach a stage whereby, or actually we will go back to what we used to be? Because
started.
prominent leaders, prominent scientists, prominent physicians graduated from universities here in Egypt. When can we go back to that again?
Well,
that people will come to us rather than our children will be leaving and going abroad.
Professor
I'm
Magdi-
sorry, this might sound pessimistic,
Professor Magdi
but
sent me already to, that was a workshop that was in August, last August 2018. We had a discussion about what is the problem and how to solve it for the young generations.
yes,
And my belief is if you give a hope for this young generation, for these people, for their own country, they would stay, they would not leave. Give them a hope, teach them well,
teach them well.
yeah, and let them lead the way, give them confidence. Do not fight them, do not stand in their way, help them, push them up. And I'm sure they would not leave. They leave because possibly they feel kind of depressed, kind of frustrated, they see black future.
And they're seeking better education, for
Exactly.
example.
Seeking better education, seeking better jobs, and so. It's actually, this is our job as university professors. We should be the leaders for these people to show them how beautiful the future could be for this country. So it's our mistake and we should correct it. The leaders of the universities should give hope for the young generation and remove any obstacles from the way.
Are you, go ahead.
The revolution came up from us. Why? Simply because they are not there in the decision making in their life. Very simple. They have no plans. Actually, we all stood for them for a long period. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. We forgot them. That's why they forgot themselves and they forgot their countries. Since Union 30, it changed. Now we have a leader who leads the country according to plan. Now we are building our country.
But people have to
So-
work with the leader.
Yes,
Yeah,
He
exactly.
cannot
but
do it
they
on
take
his own.
time to understand it. So give them time, not to push them. We are nowadays, how, okay, a very simple question. In 1918, Tantan University was ranked 6,021 worldwide. Yesterday, we are in the top 20, 200, we're in the top 200 and Times Education for higher education ministers in developing countries. We are the 5th in Egypt, we are the 6th in Africa. Worldwide, according to Times of Higher Education, we are at 800. What happened in this 1 year? What we did?
What happened to move it? And how can we move to be from
I
the
asked
top 10?
my student, show up, give me your idea. I have now a student in the engineering, faculty of engineering, which make a new car with solitaire, sun. I have another one give me an idea how to make the agriculture better with new fertilizers. And this was making us rank it much better. So the ranking is moved for 1 year,
Because of
whatever
the
we
students'
fail to
initiative.
make it in 10
Yeah.
years, because we give confidence in them.
It will be shown, by the way, in
Yes.
the exhibition and the conference.
Those
Yes.
innovations will be actually the...
Yes, it will be.
Okay.
It will be. This is the work of the student. You will be astonished enough to know that 90% of the researches which is on the project, the paper will be presented. It's from student. We are concentrating. These students are the leaders of the future. When we make an invitation, we care about the student from Africa. We care about the new generations. We look for 2063. Not nowadays. Egypt is coming. We are invited continent, Africa, to share with us the future. We give them hopes. And one study which is done in America, actually in America, but worldwide, money ranked 7 for the demand of the young generation. You offer them life, it doesn't mean you offer them money. You offer them freedom, it doesn't mean you offer them money. It ranked number 6. So if you are having a clear plan, and they know us, share putting it, they show up. And this is what happened in my university.
How for example, when you have researches, as you just mentioned in Tanta University, how can we get those researches to get the private sector to adopt those ideas? Because I know, without going into names, that there are lots of initiatives, lots of scientists that came up with innovations in Egypt, and unfortunately, nobody actually
Adopted it and working at it.
cooperated with them or sort of...
One of the projects I have submitted to the...
and they went abroad, and now this is an innovation by Dr. Muhammad, who happens to be Egyptian, but the United States, for example, says we did this innovation because
I have a story,
they fund it.
and Mr. President has another story. One of the projects that I submitted to the university is to produce our own dental materials, which is known to be very expensive. So trying to reduce the costs on the Egyptian patients. So we thought about manufacturing our own dental materials. So because the Egyptian junior staff, they do very good researches, and they do modifications on the dental materials that we use. So we need to implement this. So what we do, we have to find the know-how. So we started to get communicated with the private sector and with China and with the scientists working in the field of the Faculty of Science, our dental departments, to start to make industries, to go into the field of industry. So we produce our own materials. So therefore, you will reduce the cost on the country, paying
maybe
a
you
lot
can
of,
start exporting as
hard
well.
currencies. Yes, of course. And then you can export. You can be one of the leading countries in the world. So we also working on that, and also even Professor Magdi has another story to tell about. We are working on implementation of the researches that is done. It's not putting on the shelf and it's got, no, we are working on implementation.
Dr. Magdi, I'm sorry, we have 1 minute left. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Now, because we are in Tanta, which is in the middle of Egypt, we have the biggest factory for textile in Egypt.
One of the key
Yes.
industries in Egypt.
And yesterday we are discussing this in the parliament. How could we improve all the work there? We are now making a new training center, institute inside it. All the aspect, economy aspect, administratives, HR, new materials for the cotton, how could be, and we give the ideas how to make the work will be good. You know that cotton especially needs a lot of hand which be announced to the farmers, and we changed this one and we give all this parliament. Nowadays, since 1 year, we are participating and implementing the new ideas in our society.
Well, gentlemen, it's good to hear that we're progressing on fronts. I appreciate your fruitful input tonight. Wish you the very best of luck.
Thank you.
And hopefully next year we'll see Tanta University one of the top 20. How about that?
We will. Thank you very much.
We wish you the very best of luck. I'd like to thank you, the viewers. Wish you a very pleasant evening, and we'll see you same time next week. Until then, good night.